Hi everyone, for today's video, it's part 2 of my Sonia G brush haul and I'm going to be talking about the Sky Eye set. Now, I was very lucky with this set because it wasn't out of stock when I saw this. Now, this was actually my first order from Beautylish and unfortunately, this arrived a few days after my second order arrived here in my house. I think the courier actually misplaced this and sent it somewhere else, but I'm glad that they were able to locate it and send it my way. So this is a brush set containing 5 eyeshadow brushes, and you can buy this individually if the set is not available. Now, although this is sold as a set, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is cheaper, but the total price of the set is actually the total price if you bought each of the brushes individually. First thing that I have noticed with this brush set is that the brush heads are very different, and the brown color here is actually made of dyed Psycho hair, while the white brush head here is undyed Psycho hair. Now, if the Sonia G brushes that you have are dyed Psycho hair, you can only use those brushes for powdered products or powdered eyeshadows. And if you have a Sonia G brush which has undyed Psycho hair, you can use them for cream products or for powder products. Now, for the brush handles, as you can see here, they come in a very magnificent blue color that sparkles under the sun. It's so beautiful. And for the glitters, I can see that it has some green glitters to it, aside from the blue, and a little bit of some purple, especially towards the part wherein it fades into the black. Again, I love the pop of color in the middle. I mean, it creates color balance and harmony, and it also serves as a visual cue or guide that you are to hold the brush at that part of the handle. As I've said in my previous vlog, the lacquer will actually make the brush last longer, and it will also be less affected by the weather. How magnificent is that? This set actually reminds me of the Chikuhodo Soiree set that I reviewed last December. Now, initially, when you look at this, you can see that they almost look the same in terms of color, but actually they do not. They do have some similarity in terms of some color gradation, things like that, but to me the intensity is a little bit different. Now, to me, the Chikuhodo Soiree brush set actually has a much more darker tone, while the Sky set from Sonia G actually it's much more lighter. So as I've said in my Chikuhodo Soiree set review, the Soiree set actually reminds me of how the sky looks like in twilight. And to me, the Sonia G actually reminds me of how the sky looks like when dawn breaks. Now, aside from the color, let's talk about the handles. They have a very different design to them in comparison to the brushes from her fundamental release. It's quite a bit tricky, I have to say, because the weight is not evenly distributed and it's quite heavy here in the middle, so you really don't have any choice, but you have to hold the handles in this portion. I was having a little bit of trouble holding this initially because I tend to be very light-handed when I am holding my brushes, and one of the brushes actually slipped from my fingers and I held them because they were very heavy at this part. So, you know, sometimes when I'm looking at the design, how my brain works is that if I see something very, very thin here, I tend to hold them very delicately because I thought that they were very, very delicate. But because it's quite heavy at this part, so the brush would actually tend to fall from my finger or maybe droop down a bit, and it takes a while to get used to because it's a different kind of tension when you're holding brushes like this in comparison to her fundamental brush set. Now, I've had the pleasure of actually getting to know this set, and I have to say that I also do like them. They're very, very easy to use and they're very, very easy to understand because, after all, as I've said in my previous vlog about my Sonia G brush haul, the way that she names her brushes actually gives you an idea on how you can use them. So I'm going to show you guys how I used these brushes and how I got to know them, and maybe it can also give you an idea on how you can actually use them when you decide to purchase the Sonia G Sky Eye set for yourself. Usually when I'm testing out new eyeshadow brushes, I use a lot of matte colors because matte is very difficult to diffuse and to blend, and that's where you can actually see how a brush actually does the job. So I'm going to be using a lot of matte eyeshadows first, And I'm going to be eventually using some glitter eyeshadows as well, so that I can show you guys how well these brushes actually work with diverse eyeshadow formulas. So first, what we have here is the soft shader. So basically, you can use this to add one wash of color, or you can even use this to apply cream eyeshadows or eyeshadow base before you apply your eyeshadow. Today, I'm going to be using this palette from NARS. It's the Ignited palette, and it's one of the most difficult palettes that I've ever worked with. It was actually quite a challenge to use this palette when I first got them. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to be using the matte eyeshadows here, and I'm going to be starting with this color here. And I'm just going to apply that as my all-over eyeshadow color, or like my base color, all over my eyelid. Okay, next what we have here is the classic crease brush, and I'm going to be using this nice warm brown eyeshadow color, and I'm just going to use this, as the brush indicates, along the crease. Now, what I have noticed about this brush is that, aside from the fact that it's very soft, it actually applies the eyeshadow extremely fast and extremely well and extremely blended all at the same time. So it actually like cut down your eyeshadow application process. Now next, what we have here is the mini booster, and I'm going to be using this nice neutral brown here. And as the name indicates on the brush, I'm just gonna use this to boost the colors on the crease of my eye and to intensify. Okay, so we have the jumbo blender here, which is like a very big brush, and we can actually use this just to blend everything, you know, like no-brainer as the name indicates. And if you so desire, you can just go back and build the color intensity that you want. So next, what we have here is the flat definer brush, and I'm just going to be applying that nice neutral matte color again, and we can use that like in the lower lash line just to intensify and to connect things. And what I like about this flat definer is that you can also use this if you want to intensify your crease. And it's not really painful, like it's very soft. These brushes are very soft on the eyes. And I've actually had the opportunity of speaking to Sonia G when I finally was able to speak to her when I met her at the 2019 Brush Festival. And from the information that we've talked about, I've gathered that she has very sensitive skin, and especially around her eye area. So I believe that she actually created her brush line with her in mind, because if she has sensitive skin or sensitive skin around her eyes, there are other people who also experience that. So I mean, if you have sensitive eyes, these brushes from Sonia G will work very well for you, I promise you. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to play around with some of this very glittery eyeshadows, because I have found when I started playing with this eyeshadow palette from NARS is that it's very difficult to pick them up, especially if you don't have the right brushes. Now, I have realized that these brushes from Sonia G pick up and deliver glitter eyeshadows fairly well. So with the soft shader, I'm gonna pick up some of these colors and gently pat it in the middle of my eyelid and blend it well into my crease. Now, one thing I've also noticed with brushes from Sonia G is that I don't get a ton of fallout that I get from like other brushes, and they actually deliver the pigment very well into the eyelid without, you know, me constantly going back into the palette and picking up more product and adding it in, because I've noticed that if I use the wrong brush from this eyeshadow palette, it will not work at all. Okay, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this color and I'm going to apply it on my crease, and I'm just applying it in a sweeping motion from the outer corner of the eye to the inner corner. Now, the reason why I'm not applying a windshield wiper motion is because these eyeshadow products have a lot of glitter in them, and I have noticed that if I apply a windshield wiper motion, they tend to disturb the glitter that has already laid on top of your eyelid. In my experience, when I apply eyeshadow like this, you tend to have lesser fallout. So as you can see here, so that has actually applied that eyeshadow fairly easily and fairly well, because that's one of the most difficult eyeshadows I've actually worked with. So I'm going back with the definer brush, and then I'm just going to use that again on the upper lash line, and I'm just gently applying the product as close to the lash line as possible, just to add depth. Okay, so I'm gonna add that here in the outer corner of my lower lash line. Then bringing it up and blending it into the crease. So I'm getting the jumbo blender here, and I'm just blending the eyeshadow out for a much more smokier appearance. Ooh, I love that. Let's just remove some of the eyeshadow product that we have from the definer brush here. And I'm gonna pick up this eyeshadow color. It's a nice silvery pink color, and I'm going to apply that at the inner corner here, just for added drama and to help open up the eye. And then I'm gonna use the jumbo blender, and I'm gonna pick up this color here, and I'm just gonna apply just a teeny tiny bit on my brow bone for highlight. And with a soft shader brush, I'm gonna go back and pick up some of this eyeshadow, and I'm just gonna apply a teeny tiny bit in the middle of my eyelid, just for some drama. Okay, and then let's just use that mini booster just to define the outer V portion of the eye, and just to blend everything out further, just to intensify. Now I do see a little bit fallout because, you know, there's just so much glitter on this eyeshadow palette, but I do love how this brush actually does the job. Because before, with this particular palette from NARS, I really had trouble playing around with it, because with my existing brushes that I have, especially my squirrel eyeshadow brushes, it doesn't pick up any of the glitter eyeshadows properly. It didn't really apply properly as well, so that's why I actually put this palette like at the back of my makeup kit, and I rarely used it, not unless if I use it with the Artiste brush. I think I used this palette for the Artiste brush review. I'm gonna put a link down below for that so that you guys can see it. Now, to me, this brush set is actually a very good set, especially if you're starting out in makeup artistry or if you have small eyelids, because the brushes actually work with eyelids like mine, wherein you need smaller sizes to add more detail, because sometimes with bigger brushes, it's quite difficult to get the detailing that you need, and sometimes it gets a little bit difficult when you try to blend out stuff, because if you use a bigger brush for blending, it tends to cover up areas wherein you don't need the coverage. But with these brushes, it's actually very easy for me to build the color that I need to the shape that I want. Now, the other thing that I like about these brushes is that they fit very well with the current brushes that I have in my kit. Now, for example, this mini booster fits very well together with my S142, my Hakodo S142 brush, and my very old Laura Mercier ponytail brush. Now, although these two are made of squirrel hair and this is made of psycho hair, they actually complement each other, because these are the brushes that I use when I want to create a very soft definition in the eye, and when I don't want to create any definition but I want to add like a boost of color, I actually use this in tandem with those two. This flat definer is amazing. Now with the size, it's also very, very different. So this is the Hakodo S144 brush. And because this is made of tamage hair, so it doesn't really pick up as much color or pigment that I want, but this one actually does the job. So I can actually use this too when I just want to further define and soften the lines in the eye. So I really like that. The most surprising brush in this set is actually the Jumbo Blender, because not only does this blend, but it actually also can help you pack on more color into the eyelid. And I like this brush for that. So now if you're questioning why I'm buying a lot of brushes at the moment, the main reason is because since 2018 I've been planning on actually updating my brush kit, because I've had most of the brushes that I have in my brush kit are already at least 10 years old. So, and the other thing also is because of the COVID pandemic. As a makeup artist right now is a bit tricky because you know, you need to deep clean everything, you need to wash everything after every use, and sometimes when you're working in the studio, you work with more than one person, so I have to have a dedicated brush set per person, and that's primarily the reason why I have to buy more brushes than usual, because you know, I don't have the time to clean a lot of the brushes in between shoots. Another thing, I really like having different colors of brushes on my table because they really help in creating definition between which brushes I'm going to use for a specific person. So if you're interested in buying Sonia G brushes, they are exclusively available at beautylish.com and they ship worldwide. The Sky Eye set, actually it arrived in a box like this. Now, it was this order that I came to the conclusion that Beautylish, I think, has a hub here in Asia, in Hong Kong, because there's a stamp here that says it's packaged with love in Hong Kong, because initially I thought they were shipping everything from the United States. So as you see here, you still have that black box from Beautylish, and the great thing that I loved when I got this box was that they gave me a love letter. I love receiving love letters like this. So this card was a welcome card welcoming me into the Beautylish community. So thank you so much for this, Beautylish. And again, the brush set was wrapped in black Japanese paper and was just laid on top here. And of course, each of the brushes came in their own plastic packaging with the Kumano Fude seal in them. So that's it from me today. So this is part 2 of my Sonia G brush haul. Now, if you have any more questions about how I use the Sky Eye set or how I purchased them from beautylish.com, please leave them down in the comments box below and let's have a conversation about this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye-bye.